Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Always fear. Pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time, obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Welcome, everyone. Have we all worked out what every single one of those clips is? Maybe I need to switch it over. Right, what I need to do once again is deboomer this, but it was a quicker deboomering than the last 2 weeks. Crikey, I'll get the hang of it eventually. Hello, everyone. Hello, all of you wonderful people watching live, everyone on the replay, you fabulous folks. We are finishing off the UK horror arc. We've said it every episode, but just in case you haven't caught the term UK or it is very dusty by the time you're watching this, then UK, spelled Y-O-O-K-A-Y. Yes, I had to think through that one. Is describing the current state we're in, not the United Kingdom, but its far more degenerated and very diversified state as we find it. And what we're wondering about is, in the UK, what are people worried about and how are those worries being expressed through horror? That's what we've been looking at. We have covered the Chav Menace. Seems so antiquated right now, doesn't it? The old Chavs. We covered that in Harry Brown. We covered Asylum Seekers. Rare enough to see that covered in his house. Last week, we looked at a little bit of deindustrialization and noncery in Possum. And this week I might lose some of you. I don't know if you'll go with this one, but I thought we would look at the surveillance state. I am pretty sure that what we're looking at is contemporary fears around the overwhelming sort of surveillance apparatus set up in the UK. We are a bit of a pioneer of it. And whether that's managed to leak its way into horror, I think it has. Maybe you'll roast me for it. And I thought the best way we could do this is looking at a particular episode of Black Mirror, Harry's favourite of all time. And we might reference other ones, but this is the one, I think, that covers it for us. I'm joined, of course, by regular co-host Murgoot.
Greetings, all. Just to show myself, I'm on Twitter, X, whatever, at Murgoot. You have to put it in the capital M, otherwise you won't find me. Shadow banned. Yeah, greetings. This started out interesting, and I'll give my opinions later.
Started out interesting. Wow, I wonder how the ending hit you. And generously joining us for the entire UK horror arc, we've got returning guest Harry Robinson of the Lotus Eaters. How are you doing, Harry?
Hello, I'm doing well this evening. Thank you for having me on again. And it doesn't have to be generous. I love showing up on this. So thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, this is not my favorite episode of Black Mirror by any means. And in fact, I think it's quite a poor run of the show that happens in series 4, because you get this episode and then the black and white episode Metalhead as well straight after, which both have incredibly poor endings to them. But for all my problems with this episode, we will get into them as the show goes on. We've got a bit of a leaner panel today, so I will not front load all of my complaints.
That's okay. Yes.
Also,
no
you can find me
TCG.
in the places that you know. You go on Lotus Eaters, you buy a subscription, you watch all the content, you fall in love with me. You can't get Islander anymore because Islander 3 is now sold out. So if you missed out, you're a loser.
Should have listened. Should have listened to Harry. He told you. He told you order it. Oh, by the way, my copy arrived. It looks fabulous. I'm looking forward to digging into it.
Well,
So,
hey, that's good to hear.
kudos on that one.
Well, thank Rory for all the amazing graphic design and for making it all happen in the first place.
Oh, yeah, it is very well presented. So, yes, I've got my unbroken run of Islanders. Excellent stuff. Oh, and my own shilling. Well, I'm doing a special shill tonight. I hope this is working, but I have set up a stream goal. I really hope this works, but basically I thought what might incentivize you? Well, I can do a bonus stream. There is a couple of topics that I can't quite crowbar into being horror related, but I do think they are interesting. I really want to talk to them, talk about them. And I think if you guys want to hear that, then I will do a bonus stream. One of the topics is Bulverism. I'm going to take a very atypical stance because I think it's awesome and we should all do it. I will try and win you over into absolutely adoring Bulverism. If you want to hear me talk about that, if I've set this right, 10 super chats over the stream, that'll do it. Because I really want to shoot my mouth off. I don't need much persuading, but let's incentivize that. So if you want to check how that's going, send a super chat. I believe they're open. Memberships are also open. I will waste no more time. We'll get into it. Quick check though. Murgoot.
Yes.
How much Black Mirror have you seen? Are you
I've seen
all the way
about
through
half,
40?
I've seen about half of them.
I've confused people with Bulverism. There we go. Bulverism. What the heck is that? I don't know. Don't Google
I have
it.
never heard of that.
Pay me to talk about it on a stream.
Yes, remember to pay Chloe. She's
Yes.
doing this for free, you know.
It's true. Like
What
a
else would you
Janny.
have to do on a Thursday evening without Chloe? So pay her.
Exactly. So, Mo, you said you've seen about half of them. Is that sort of early on and you sort of dropped off? Or is it just dribs and drabs here and there?
I know I've seen the entire first series, about half of the second series, most of the third series, and as far as I can tell, only one of the fourth series.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we have covered it before, so you'll have seen a few of them. So that's all good. I think it would be fair to say the idea of technology being all-encompassing and surveilling is sort of all over the place. Someone already said in the chat that it came in from the very first season. And sort of the first episode, actually, is that idea of everyone being able to have eyes on everything. But I think everyone got sort of distracted from that in all the, David Cameronism of it. Harry, how about yourself? Big fan of the old Black Mirror?
I suppose kind of, actually. I've watched almost all of Black Mirror up to the end of the 5th series. So I've watched all of series 1 and 2. I have watched most of series 3, all of series 4, and all of series 5. I didn't even know series 6 came out because series 5 completely switched me off the show. Series 1, great from beginning to end. Series 2, great from beginning to end. And then all of a sudden, you get the American partnership in the 3rd series where some major cracks start to form. Episodes start to go way too long. The characters aren't interesting enough to carry the narratives. And it starts to you start to feel the bloat, especially with series 3 and 4 having 6 episodes each. Series 4 has 2, 1.5 maybe good episodes in it. And series 5 was uniformly terrible, although did have the funniest gay panic episode of any television show I've ever seen. And I don't think it was supposed to be a full-on comedy episode, but an episode where 2 bros start cosplaying in virtual reality as Street Fighter characters and having sex with one another is hilarious. Why exactly the designers of the video game would design it in such a way that you could have sex with one another in virtual reality, because that's a lot of resources designated to making sure that all of the biological functions downstairs are working in a fighting game. But it was hilarious that they went that far, and the resolution of the episode being the two guys meeting up in real life, kissing and going, "Hold up, I ain't gay," was amazing. I don't know what the episode was trying to say, but it was funny. And but it was terrible as well. It was actually terrible. There's the one boring episode where a guy gets kidnapped and they sit in a car having a really boring conversation for an hour. That was awful. And then there's
the best one in the series. What are you talking about?
It was the best one in the series, but I remember it having very little impact on me. So I'm going to claim right now it was terrible. And then the last episode was Miley Cyrus being a whore, if I remember correctly. Or is it?
Oh, no, she was. Yeah, that wasn't even in the script. But
yeah, that sounds about right. They just managed to catch some behind the scenes footage, and that was rubbish as well. So by the time Series 6 came out, I didn't even realize it came out, because I was like, Black Mirror is dead to me. It died somewhere through Series 3. The last really good episode that I enjoyed was the Star Trek episode, and I think that was mainly because, I mean, it wore the Star Trek stuff well, and it had Meth Damon from Breaking Bad in it, who I always enjoyed.
It did. Well, that's pretty comprehensive. I'd throw in a good word for Bandersnatch, the interactive element, which was very
literate. I forgot about that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty good. But Connor and Carl, formerly and presently of Lotus Eaters, actually warned me off season 6. I was getting a bit twitchy after season 5, and I read their summaries and just thought, nope. No, I'm all right. I'm good. But,
yeah, apparently Series 7's coming out on April 10th. Are we all looking forward to it, folks?
I will wait for someone else's summary. I've been hurt before, Harry. I've been hurt before, but
yeah, I think for me, honestly, it was this episode that was the real turning it off for me moment. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, I will say, I remain very fascinated by Black Mirror, especially the early stuff, because for me, Charlie Brooker is one of these guys who's on the left, but so precariously. He's slipping. He's like your Adam Curtis. He's your Aaron Bastani. He's on the left, but he's just seeing a bit too much. He's noticing things a bit too much. It's not really fitting for him, and he's starting. He sort of knows what values he wants to promote, but he's seeing how things work in the real world, and he's pretty uncomfortable about it. So for that reason, I find Charlie Brooker's perspective really interesting, particularly in an episode that everyone hates, the Waldo moment. Long overdue analysis of that.
I don't get why people hate that episode. I think that's a good episode.
It's a brilliant episode, yeah, and it's the clearest insight into his political view.
Again, I don't think there's really anything bad in those first two series. I think they're pretty uniformly excellent, especially 1,000 Merits and White Christmas. I think they're great.
Oh yes, I mean White Christmas is absolutely wonderful. Nothing wrong in those first two seasons at all. Like some patchy elements, but as you say, the yes, Tim WD. So that was Rupa Hook, MP, who advised on the episode, the Waldo moment, and I think informs it a bit. But the corruption is there. Like her portrayal of the Labour Party is maybe a little biased, but nevertheless, it's an interesting one. Anyway, I mustn't get sidetracked onto that one because we're here for surveillance discussions. I will quickly say, Daniel Hall, thank you so much. You're the first one pitching in to make sure we get that bonus stream. 9 to go, folks. 9 donations to go. Sending $10 and saying the implications of a society going from a moralistic to a legalistic one played out well in this episode. When consent becomes the highest good, people can be shepherded into consenting to anything. Yes. That ties in very well, if I'm understanding you correctly. Brooker is not, he's progressive, but he doesn't trust people at all. he's very flat about it. Like, people can be shepherded into consenting to anything. They can be controlled very easily, and he is very aware of that. He hints at it in this episode well. Oh, here we go. Conflicted shitlibs. Yes, Simon. Yes, absolutely. And hello, friend of the show, Simon Roberts. Curtis appreciator, indeed. Let's quickly do a summary of this. Murgoot, I think you had called dibs on the plot summary for this, for anyone who didn't do their homework.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick and concise. An insurance investigator and a high-class architect with a deep, dark past have their paths collide, and suspension of disbelief is shattered by a bloody guinea pig.
I love accessing the memories of
this lad.
Yes.
I do have other screenshots, but I'm going to keep him on for almost the entire stream. You know, we got to do it. Sorry, actually, you have nailed it. I just remembered. I had a little note. I didn't get to it. As Harry said, one of the reasons for the downfall in season 3 is it's not just the episode length. It is a series number. It's like this example of like success can kill your show. Like when you only have to do 3 episodes a year, you can manage it. You can give everything a thought. I have as my main research here the Inside Black Mirror book, written by Charlie Brooker, Annabelle Jones, with Jason Arnott. And from season 3 onwards, count how many times he says that he had to rush the script out.
Oh, really?
And ran out of time. Oh, yeah. You mentioned Metalhead. Oh, yeah. Mentions it there. He mentions it here. He says this was the quickest script he ever wrote. And I think, Murgoot, your plot summary kind of works for that.
You can tell.
Yeah. One of those... Yeah, when you go from 45 minutes to an hour, oh, man. Well, you got to get some extra story in there. And this really didn't have it.
Well, the problem is as well, when you're exploring ideas of dystopia, within the human imagination, when you restrict yourself to a very narrow idea of dystopia, you can quickly run out of ideas. And by the time you get to series 5, he's clearly wrangled with the producers of the show that 6 episodes per series is way too many. Can we get it back down to 3 like the first 2 series? Because White Christmas was a special. It was a one-off thing. They say yes. And then he gets to series 5 and he's like run out of steam, basically, with the ideas. What
if 2 bros are playing Tekken, then decide they want to be Tekken it up the...
yeah. Listen, it wasn't gay. They were kissing the bros, the homies goodnight, all right? It's not gay. As they found out at the end when they decided to go full hog with the kissing, and it wasn't just like a good night thing, and they were like, no, this isn't for me, bro.
You got this feeling that those guys just, they said, look, we do one take on this and you get it, all right? They didn't look happy, did they?
They weren't really having to do much acting there.
There is a certain amount of, I think he had explored... there are a couple of themes that he just wanted to take from different angles. One of them is our digital creations people.
No.
Then there's, unfortunately, Harry, you're going to have to watch that question about 6 times in the series.
Yeah. Patrick Batman's got a point there.
It's true. Balls can't touch in VR, so it's not gay. Yeah,
and you can have your fingers crossed the whole time.
Exactly. If you say it's just a prank, bro.
You say psych once it's done.
Exactly. First those 2 dudes, they download, then they on the download. This is how it starts. Anyway, so yeah, this Brooker says he this is returning to one of his obsessions about surveillance everywhere, and not just state surveillance. This is why he's interesting. Brooker isn't trapped in an old regime of the state is surveilling us, Gestapo around every corner, oh no, Mastasi. He is extremely aware that in the modern era, in the post-Blair era, we have a public private panopticon. He knows that we will do our own surveilling. Like, think of even as far back as, let's say, White Bear Season 2, Episode 2. There's something horrific going on. Everyone's just filming it.
One
No
of the
one
best
intervenes.
episodes, by the way.
Totally. Everyone is reduced to a zombie recording it, putting it out. We've so many people have got the Ring doorbells. Super convenient, but you've kind of just installed CCTV on every door. Already in the UK, Ring doorbells are used frequently to arrest people for stuff, and you might think, okay, they were doing bad things, but no, in the UK, you don't really have to be doing anything that bad. I recall a certain chap leafleting for an organisation that, I'm not particularly fond of, but nevertheless, he was identified with Ring footage, and life very much thrown off course as a result of that.
Yeah, you carry a surveillance device everywhere with you, your cell phone, unless you have a jailbroken Android phone like I do.
Yeah, it's true. We're all very used to this, very used to it. So yeah, it's this episode is. Yeah, totally got it. I mean, but hey, look, with all that surveillance literally everywhere, we must be in a much safer society, right?
I found at my grocery store at the self-checkout kiosk, I got flagged for not scanning something properly, and it's, wait a minute, what's going on? I tried to scan it, and they walked over, touched a few buttons, and the video from above me showed on the screen so they could see what I scanned and put in the bag to make sure I wasn't shoplifting. So
permanent
surveillance is everywhere.
Yeah, but contrastingly, in a delicious anarcho-tyrannical way, it doesn't mean that justice will actually be done. There's quite a few. I'll just pick out Crime Bodge for one example, highlighting that even where people are going around with a GoPro footage of them, they got mugged, and then had to track the police wouldn't come. They called the police, didn't happen. They had to go and track down the phone themselves, and they just used a geolocation to get it. They had to do it all themselves. So the presence of all the surveillance doesn't actually make you safer. I may possibly be getting a bit off topic here. I should move us into a little more discussion of this. So I think this idea of our hugely surveilled state, as Tim W. Day correctly says, yes, we do have the most CCTV per capita. There is open data sharing with the police on basically everything. Ring will gleefully give its footage. Anyone recording is probably putting it on social media, which makes it easy for the authorities to use if they want to. But they've got to be minded to do so. And I think that is informing what Brooker was interested in here. That we all become part of a panopticon. There's a great line that he has about a sort of crowdsourced version of reality, if you remember that. Where is the quote? Darn it. I wrote it down because I loved it. a crowdsourced version of reality. For anyone, well, Murgoot, you should have summarized how it worked in this, but it's an interesting chain.
The technology where the insurance investigator, with the okay of the person, can attach a device and bring out something that she can see their memories, kind of a 20 minutes into the future Blade Runner-esque device. And it's just the statement, well, memories are subjective. She brings out the beer so that they can sniff it because the brewery is on the street that the accident happens on. And she can focus on things. Neat bit of technology, but nothing we hadn't seen before. Like I said, Blade Runner, Niven and Pornell's fiction had a variant of it.
Black Mirror itself in the first series, as Chloe mentioned, had already basically explored this in a much more interesting episode. I'm just gonna step in and say,
rock on.
All of this, yes, is great analysis and everything, but I can't help but feel like we're doing a lot of heavy lifting for the episode itself, right? Because all in all, this aspect of the episode takes up maybe 10% of the runtime, and I'll be honest, is not even presented in a way that makes it seem like a big, scary, malevolent force. She's literally just an insurance claims agent who's going around chasing up an insurance claim. It's not presented as anything that's too awkward, except maybe with the dentist and the fact that he wasn't entirely comfortable with his memories being poked around with. The only reason that it ends up being a huge problem in the episode is because the main character, who's an awful scouser, whose name I cannot remember, is a murderer and just...
Call that Andrea Riseborough. We can do that.
Andrea Riseborough, whatever.
We'll go with the actress name.
She just happened to witness an insurance claim accident at the time that she was murdering somebody who was a grown man who probably weighed about 50 pounds more than she did, but she was able to overpower him, which was a great start to the episode, by the way. And then she manages to stumble her way through concealing her murders in the most ridiculous way. I mean, if you want to talk about a world in which there is so much CCTV and so much surveillance, how the hell was she able to get that body out of the hotel room? Surely there would have been CCTV of him going into the hotel room, not coming out of the hotel room, but she very shiftily decides to start walking through the hotel with a serving tray that she got for room service that she takes down to the car park in the elevator, which we see for a fact does not even conceal his full body.
His hand and his
body sticking out of the thing. Sorry, and then she manages to drive it to and throws it in the sewer at a port.
It's the port at a geothermal plant where he could be boiled down.
Okay, all right. And then later on, when the insurance claims agent shows up at her house, she decides, after she's seen that the murder is going on in her memory, that she's going to kill her to protect herself because she panics, and then decides to kill her entire family, including a small child, a baby, to make sure that she can't be caught. But even if they all turn up dead, surely, again, there would have been some record of, this is the house I'm going to as part of this insurance claim. I hope nothing weird happens, and then they would be able to track her down that way, look at her. The whole thing is completely rushed. I can
tell.
You're
saying you'd prefer it with a laugh track?
It is kind of a comedy of errors. It's really badly written. Again, I feel like we're doing so much heavy lifting. I feel like the twist at the end where she kills a baby that she thinks witnesses her murder to make sure that the baby's memories can't be accessed. Again, when you basically have to be given all these directions to be able to get the memories to come out even somewhat clearly in the first place. I don't know how you'd extract those memories from a baby. But then to have the twist, the turn of the knife, turns out the baby was blind anyway, born blind that way, was just a way for Charlie Brooker to be edgy, to be as edgy as possible. Look at what she's been pushed to, but she didn't even need to because of this twist of dramatic irony. But then, it's difficult to extract memories from a human being, but apparently hooking a guinea pig up to this machine means that within about 10 minutes that the police can find out who she is, where she is, and show up before the end of her child's play to arrest her. And then there's also the question of, if there were no witnesses to her murder in the first place when she goes into that house, why did the police show up in the first place? Why were they there 10 minutes after she leaves? There are so many plot holes in this. And that's not even to talk about the fact the characters in this, because of how rushed they are bland and unlikable. I felt no sympathy from the very start. The first lines we get from the character, from Andrea Riseborough, are her freaking out because her drunk boyfriend's knocked a cyclist over and killed him. We get no real character beyond.
And you were already applauding because it was a cyclist.
Exactly. Why?
He had a little bit of that Jeremy Vine energy to him.
But then she's also Scouse, so that turns me against her immediately. You know, I'm more a Manchester lad myself. So there's nothing likable about any of these characters. There's nothing there's nothing that I can really hold on to as part of her emotional struggle, because the most that we get to empathize with her on is she's got a family. She doesn't want to go to prison and be away from her family. I can see what he's trying to do, which is, if you were forced into this situation by circumstance, how far would you go to protect yourself and protect your family? But there's no real connection that I felt with the character beyond what was very obviously Charlie Brooker trying to pull the strings behind the scenes, and all of the contrivances, all of the plot holes, all of the convenience. It makes for, again, a really terrible episode that I felt was just trying to be as miserable as possible to be edgy. So there's my complaints out of it. And again,
I feel like you just relaxed once you got that all left, and you're like,
the tone shift of like, oh my God, she's just killed a baby. How's she gonna get away with this one? Well, she's not, because thankfully a guinea pig witness. Guinea pig. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop there.
A walking fuzzy Etch-a-Sketch. I mean, come on, people. And you're right about the girl bossing. That almost threw me off when she strangled the guy and broke his neck. And the one that almost truly threw me off was her pulling his body through the geothermal plant to get to... How the hell did she know where that was?
Yeah, and also, like, I don't know if Charlie Brooker knows this, but a fully grown man is really heavy. Really, especially dead weight. It's not evenly distributed like it is if you're just lifting weights at the gym. And she was a very small woman. So her being able to, like, stuff him into this, being able to stuff him into the waiting tray, and then just move him along, and then be able to stuff him into the plant. Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Dragging him 100 yards, I'd have problems with that with a 170-pound dead guy. It's dragging that much. I remember I was a geologist. I remember having my frame pack with everything loaded up, and it weighed about 150 pounds. And it was distributed right, and it was a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine dragging something 100 yards and then having the strength to open a bloody steel manhole or cast iron manhole cover.
These are fair criticisms. I feel like that's a vein we can go down. Before we open that trench a little bit, I just want to say thank you to Adam Loves Horror, good support of the show. Thank you very much. Sending $2 and saying, if you didn't shill now, do it. Or do it again. Well, I'll happily shill again. I shilled at the start. I will shill again. if we get 8 more super chats, I will do you a bonus stream. I think this is my plan for the next few of them because there's a lot of bonus streams I want to do. So give me the excuse to go off topic. So that's what we're going to do. Stream goal, 10 super chats, bonus stream. Makes sense. Thank you again, Adam. So yeah, really good points about, well, the unfeasibility of the whole, this person saw that person who noticed that, who remembered that. But yeah, let's stick on this. She is tiny. She is Tinkerbell. She ain't hauling that dude. So reading the production book, this was Andrea Riseborough's idea. And originally...
It's always actress's idea. I want to be strong. I want to have agency. I want to be the man in charge. I'm sorry, you're a tiny woman. It doesn't work that way.
I'll simp for her a bit, and then you can smack me down. Like, I think Andrea Riseborough is actually really interesting, and an actress who is, it's probably fair to say, a character actress. She will throw herself into it. She will do unglamorous roles. She has good, weird suggestions. Someone already mentioned Possessor, and if none of you have seen that, Possessor is a strong film. Bloody brilliant, 2020. Go and watch it. Her suggestion to take the hacking of people's brains to a really weird sexual place was fantastic, and it was her idea. I won't be describing it on stream, but it's memorable. That was her idea, and she was originally up for the role of the insurance investigator, and then thought that she should do the killing because she wanted to do that darker role. Now her cope was she could do the physical stuff, and this was actually raised as a problem, like, you're tiny, you couldn't do it. She said, no, adrenaline, bro. I get my adrenaline. And I suspect the production team were maybe a little too progressive to really shut that down. But I mean, Adam Loves Horror, thank you again for $5, saying people are capable of anything in times of danger, including being incredibly illogical in the heat of the moment and the world falling apart overnight. True.
That is true, but I will counter and say that her actions being illogical is fine for the most part. It does not make up for the contrivances of the rest of the world around her acting illogically, especially, again, those final 10 minutes when the whole point of it is she's trying to get away with this murder to the point where she's willing to kill a baby to cover her tracks. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the police are just at the house anyway after she's left. Okay, so someone must have seen her then? So there was a witness that we as the audience just weren't aware of, or the police have psychic powers and know that there was a murder that took place there anyway. Did somebody knock around? I would like some information filling in why the police are there in the first place. And then again, for them to be able to extract the memories from a guinea pig.
Yeah.
And then within minutes, track down her location and go and find her and pick her up. Literally, she murders the family and then goes straight to her child's school play of Bugsy Malone. Before the play is over, the police are there arresting her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's ridiculous.
One, the police are never that fast. Two, they should have gone to her house first. It's just following procedure. The last 15 minutes are just absolutely absurd.
It's the rush to the finish after taking quite a long time to get there. And Harry, as you said, it's sort of once the steps are taken, oh, this person saw this thing. Oh, that leads you to here. That leads you to here. And it's like, you got to feel like maybe there were a couple of fewer steps in there. And then they looked at the runtime and were like, oh man, we're on Netflix now.
Yeah, we could have skipped the dentist.
Let's have a gay dentist. The best kind of dentist.
Yes. Also, again, that time could have been spent fleshing out the characters. Because these characters are incredibly one note, incredibly surface level. The only thing we get outside of her being sad because she was involved in a death that she didn't want to be part of, and having a family, is that she's some climate change activist as well. Oh, that's going to make me sympathize for her, isn't it? Oh, we've got all Greta Thunberg all grown up. I'm going to root for her. And even then, we don't really get any of that either. We get a very short clip of her beginning a speech or rehearsing a speech, and then nothing else. The rest of it is her dealing with that situation. And again, she deals with it in a way that is completely unrealistic and takes me out of the world.
Yeah. Well, I was telling Proper that she had a problem with it being a slog, and I just mentioned that I don't mind the slow pace. I like Scandinavian crime fiction. I also like Len Deighton's spy and crime novels, where everything is slow and plodding and bureaucratic, and everybody has their motives, and then the last 20 minutes just absolutely 20 minutes absolutely shattered that. I was just like, no. I could follow along. I didn't care about the girl bossing. I was engrossed in what was going on. And then that rushed ending was just bloody guinea pig of all things. Jesus.
I think the guinea pig needs to come back. I mean, I said I'd have him up all stream, but so people are. There's a lot more we can do in this. There's 2 strands I want to follow here, but
can I just address some of the comments?
Yeah, absolutely.
That we're getting in the chat. And thank you for everyone for interacting with this, because I do enjoy the discussion that we have. Dr. Prepper is asking the reasonable question of if she would have gotten into any trouble in the first place, or that much trouble. Because if you remember, her old boyfriend, all he wanted to do was send an anonymous letter to the wife of the person that they ran over. And she freaks out. She thinks that through that letter, if he gives too much detail, that they'll be able to track down the body, and through that, maybe be able to track them down. I don't know. I mean, I can understand why she would panic and worry, but I don't understand the exact logic of that. If it's just an anonymous letter saying, hey, listen, you shouldn't keep waiting for your husband. He's actually dead. Here's how it happened. You don't actually have to give the location where it happened, although you would be able to potentially assume and track that down. So she panics, she acts illogically, yada, yada, yada. So I can understand, but again, her overpowering him doesn't work for me. Tori Rebuttal is pointing out that you've all touched on it, but the whole point is she's meant to be an unlikely murderer. I understand that completely. I understand that that is the point of the moral dilemma that the show, this episode, is trying to present to us. Personally, though, I don't think the show presents any character that we can really sympathize or empathize with outside of her being an unlikely murderer. We don't get an idea of her personality outside of her being a scouser. We don't get an idea of her personal life with her family outside of some very, very short scenes where it's like she is a mum and she is at home sometimes. So there's very, very little for me to grasp onto character-wise to get me invested in her struggle.
Yeah, we know that she is, ambitious, etc. She's got a good career and she wants to keep that, but it is very slim. And Dr. Prepper raised a good point about this, that I think there's a bit of a tension here. I can't find your comment, but I find there's a tension in the panic between, okay, she's taken an action that she wouldn't have done because she was panicked, but she's also so methodical that she is going to try and work her way through the chain of evidence to kill people. So is she panicked or is she methodical? And if she's methodical, can her big architect, girl boss, climate change fighting brain not figure out that if they got you off this very unlikely chain of glimpsed memories, surely you can't escape this at this point. Like, you're done at that point. Like, you might fairly suggest like she could have just not answered the door.
All you're doing
away,
is digging a deeper hole for yourself at the time.
if you get a little autistic about it, you can work out in the episode that she actually doesn't have to cooperate with. I think her name is. Is it the It's either the actress or the character is Shazia. Muslim insurance woman. I
don't know how she wouldn't have been able to cooperate with her. Could you walk me through that? Because I remember she's trying to avoid having to have her memories searched into, and
Yes,
she points out in that private-public partnership way that it's part of a law that had been passed the year before that she has to cooperate in the case of something like this.
Well, earlier on, Shazia had said, "You don't have to do it. I need consent," and then she lies to the architect.
Oh,
okay. So she's just being dishonest. Yeah, that sounds like an insurance.
Murgoot's got it. The insurance investigator is completely dishonest. If you just focus, she tells a different story to everyone she gets a memory of. So particularly the guy in the hotel who says, "Yeah, we don't have permission to share that information. We can't give you those details." And it's like, okay, fair enough. Basically, she could have just said no, I don't have to.
It's one of the other things that caught my eye was, as Harry said, the hand and foot were dangling out of the room service cart. I know in the U.S. about half of elevators here have surveillance cameras. And in Britain, I can just imagine, aside from old rundown apartment buildings, every elevator, especially a high-end hotel like she was in, would have surveillance cameras in the elevator.
And certainly in this world that we're being presented as well.
Right.
Yeah. So this high IQ woman, genius girl boss, she's, at one of these points, she's got to think, yes, you can't cover this up. It is ridiculous that she keeps going down when she knows that it's not working. So it's a central problem. One of the other unlikely elements, and this won't be popular with everyone, but we kind of already raised it, the fact that she is absolutely tiny and an architect, and she is, a very, it's unlikely, very hard to believe that one, she would do this, and two, she could overpower and kill a dude and then haul the body, etc. There is a little element in this of hard to believe casting. I'm not going to make a big thing of this. It's a certain amount of, it's TV made in Britain in the 2010, but there's a little bit of more than just that in terms of the kind of hard to believe casting.
Yeah.
I mean,
it would have been more believable if she was the driver who hit the cyclist and her boyfriend was the one who became the architect. That way it would hold together better throughout the beginning and the middle. But
yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of, it's you cast as your investigator a Muslim actress with a Scouse accent, a Scottish accent, who is traditional enough to be very identifiably Muslim, but is also comfortable working with alcohol and also works outside the home. It's a little bit of...
And also is seemingly right before she's about to die, starts to give some kind of traditional prayer.
Yeah, what I want to say in here, there's like... I know this sounds like kind of... It's a little more nuanced than how people might read this. It's this trap of shows like this want representation, but they don't want to actually represent. Like they say, oh, we should have a Muslim character on here. It's like, okay, but I don't want to actually have anything that is like a traditional life. Like I want that Muslim character, but she does need to be like basically just a color palette switch for the character I was going to do anyway.
It's because if you don't do that, then you won't be showing an idealized representation of integration that more often than not doesn't actually. If you show a person like this living a traditional lifestyle in an ethnic enclave, it's going to be quite off-putting for the audience that you're trying to propagandize.
Yes, and you know what? I want to thank you for all the super chats that have come in. Thank you so much. I'll just make myself extremely unpopular.
TCG, where are you? I see you in the chat. Get on here right now.
Yeah. Skyvin. I just want to say, in this sort of casting in this landscape, like, it's pretty bad taste that she goes and offers a baby. But I just kind of feel like there's certain dynamics about this actress being the one who is a threat to kids, going on the rampage. Something sets my spidey senses a tingling. You know, just the way it happens to work out. Something does not seem close to reality. We may address something very similar to this when we do a wrapping up of the UK topic. Yes, we are going to talk adolescence briefly.
Yeah, also,
folks.
where is this supposed to be set in? What, the Scottish Highlands?
Yeah.
Yes.
Iceland stood in for it.
I thought it. I've been to Iceland before, and I thought it looked like Iceland. So being able to recognize Iceland at a glance, kind of confused me a little bit.
It's very distinctive, but you are like, why are these people meant to be in Scotland?
Yeah, why are they all Scottish?
I don't get. Before we go further, just want to say, and I'm sorry this is a bit delayed, but no need to know. Thank you for your service, sir. Going for the bonus stream, we are closer. You moved us 10% closer to the bonus stream. Adam Losara has come in with another $2, moving us another 10% towards a bonus stream. How close are we? I'll check in a second. Thank you for the $2. Asking, what if it was Rosemary's baby who was being offed? Worth killing? Well, we don't know that there was anything wrong with Rosemary's baby. Just something wrong with his eyes.
And his dad, whoever that might have been.
I really want to cover that film. That's
another fatherless child born in New York.
Many such cases.
Although I will say, perhaps this is not very Bronze Age mindset of me, but I'm kind of uncomfortable with the idea of any babies being murdered. Call me a cuck if you want, but that's just me.
Well, there is a fair question to say about both the murder of Shazia and the baby happen off screen in a kind of like in a film about being able to see everything. The sort of more troubling deaths are kept off screen. That's just
I don't know. You see her husband get his head caved in.
Yeah,
that's pretty
weird,
brutal.
Yeah, pretty harsh. TCG has come in £2. Thank you very much. We are we are close. I swear we must be close to it. Someone say tuna and pepperoni pizza. Tuna and pepperoni? I don't know, man. That's getting a little crazy, TCG. I'm a very tolerant person, but I don't know, man. Tuna and pepperoni is pushing it. I'll have to try it out.
Tuna is disgusting in the first place, so feel shame on yourself.
Anyway, TCG, hope all's well, man. Miss you on the panel as ever. And Adam Lazara getting us, I'm sure you're getting us that bonus stream. How Keanu got the cup chair. Women are so strong. Thank you very much, Adam. If that makes no sense, the last video I published, I think, was called "How Keanu Got the Cup Chair," which was I even had a little mention of you, Harry. It was following on our favourite film, Knock Knock.
That was great. That was such a great. I still think about him buried to his neck, going sometimes it just gets a chuckle out of me.
Well, you're currently at 7 out of 10 towards your target.
Have I got it? Oh, sweet. We are 3 away. We're going to make it. I'm optimistic, guys. Yes, that was about subtle signals in the architecture to undermine Keanu Reeves' masculinity. Actually, speaking of subtle architecture, shall we say something nice about this episode? It's been a while.
Go on.
All right. So the director is John Hillcoat, who directed the absolutely excellent The Proposition. Fantastic stuff if you haven't seen it. Lovely, grim Western set in the Australian outback. And he did The Road as well. I'm sure a load of you will have seen that, the Viggo Mortensen The Road.
Mm-hmm.
In choosing his setting, he found locations that really work with the theme of the episode. So shutting down frozen, frigid mental states and being observed at all times. He sticks you constantly in vistas where you can be seen and observed. This opening building where protagonist, played by Andrea Riseborough, I don't remember the name. What's her name? What is her name? Never mind.
Bint.
Mia, there we go.
Scouse.
Scouse Murderer Mia. In this one, brilliantly, you can see the whole wall is open. They could have had many a building. And I know Iceland is a bit starved for sunlight, so they love this stuff. But this thing of she can be seen at all times backs up that theme of mass surveillance. You see this again when the evidence is being collected. You can see straight in. Anyone could have a look. That guy, for this guy, every wank's a danger wank. No privacy. In her home, again, massive, open. You can be seen at all times. And I think also it's nice to have the imposing mountain behind her. You know, like this overwhelming thing sneaking up on her. I'm sure you've... I'm kind of minded of that meme we've probably all seen of the guy feeling all chill and then this massive monster is looming behind, like looming over him. I'm not describing it well. I'm sure you know it. But just
I think I know the one that you're on about, yeah.
It's looming over her. So this is a nice bit of what we called psychic geography. Similar to how we talked about in Possum, how the environment that was sort of hard to place chronologically, but had loads of 70s influence, was reflecting a guy who was mentally stuck in the 70s. So, what do you reckon, guys? Reach or credible?
No, I would say that's probably something that is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems... It's trying to accentuate the themes.
Mm.
Looking at the notes, they intentionally did it that way. They intentionally did it in the Scandinavian style where you have broad vistas, overlooks, lots of grays, lots of just that whole thing. The Wallander, the girl with the dragon tattoo, everything like that. Just bleak, overlooking everything.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Murgoot, you said the magic word there. I want to get back to that. But just quickly, thank you, Samson, for sending in £5. Very nice. Samson, as in admin Samson? Is that you?
Is it you, Samson? I spotted you earlier, and I didn't know if I should give you a shout out, or are you some other Samson? But this is a good question. Are Scousers truly capable of a complex cover-up operation such as this? If it doesn't involve benefit fraud, I don't think so.
I'll go with that. I'll go with that, absolutely. Thank you very much for £5. Appreciate it.
It is Samson. Hello,
indeed.
Samson. I hope you've been to the gym this evening.
Yeah. Yeah, same. Thank you very much, Samson. Very generous of you. Always good to see you. Hopefully be seeing you fairly soon, but cheers. And you know what? If you're hanging around this stream and you fancy popping on another time, you'd be welcome. Be welcome. It'd be good fun. I've forgiven you for inviting me on Lads Hour, cheeky bastard. Anyway, Adamless Horror is going to get us this bonus stream, I'm sure. We've got the $2 in. Give your girl $2. She's worth every penny. Thank you very much. There is one outlier. There is one outlier donation. I think you're going to get your bonus stream, guys. I believe it. I can feel it. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We're close to it. So, Murgy, you said the magic words. Girl with the dragon tattoo. I wonder if you thought that the plot element of our investigator going and seeing memories, capturing memories, tracing it back. Do you think that was a little inspired by Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Where a
bit.
key plot point is like someone has a photograph of someone taking a photograph. So they try and...
Yeah, somebody, I mean, by the notes I've read, they definitely went off of that. They also went off of Wallander and what's the other series? But yeah, definitely the bureaucratic trap setup, the plotting, the going through memories, subjective memories, and finding the truth via that definitely holds true with that form of crime fiction.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I couldn't help but think of it, you know. I mean, you go through this. Your boy Charlie, he's trying to crank these scripts out. I don't know. He said he got a very different inspiration for this, by the way, if you're interested. A combination of a couple of things. I mean, we've got our excuse to do it now, actually. Tory Rebuttal, thank you very much, sir. Sending in £2 and saying you need an autistic breakdown of the title. Well, I can bring you that autism. Thank you. You've got us to our 10. But folks, if you want to really secure that, you know, don't let that stop you just because Tory Rebuttal's nabbed the 10th one. Excellent. I should have done the old DSP maneuver and not addressed it until more had come in. I don't have those DSP instincts. Right, so autistic breakdown of the title. Where does it come from? Interestingly, some of the reviews, some of the mainstream media said Crocodile referred to crocodile tears. They were very happy to racialize it and said it's white women's tears. You'll notice that most of the people she kills are minorities. And it's like, well, she takes out a family, so, you know, decent chance of that kind of coincidence. She's kind of bundling, you know, bit of a discount for group purchase. So it was interesting that some media reviewers took that meaning, but it's nothing to do with crocodile tears. And we can get that from the inspiration for this episode, and I'm drawing from, again, Inside Black Mirror. So one of the inspirations directly was Charlie Brooker witnessing a guy get hit by a pizza van, or a delivery van anyway, and being a bit horrified by it. That stuck in his head. And later, he was... you know what? I'll just try and find his words. That might be a little bit easier than me trying to mangle it for you guys. Fill some dead air, folks, while I find the bit.
Hello.
All right.
I don't know what to do. Have you found it yet, Chloe?
I have got it.
There you go.
All right. So I've got the bit where he talks about seeing the incident. You know, I'll read and extend it a bit from this, so forgive me. This will be a bit of an indulgent paragraph. Charlie Brooker said, somewhere around 2005, I was on a bike in Clapham Junction in London, waiting for the lights to change when a man ran across the road and got hit by a car. I rang for an ambulance straight away and then had to stand over him while the operator talked to me on the phone, asking questions about whether he was breathing and so on. It was nasty. His head was open. Ugh. Sometime later, the police came to take a statement about what I'd seen because there was going to be a case about whether this motorist was speeding. And I realised how difficult it is. They asked how fast the car was going, and I thought it was a bit fast. Was it speeding? What colour was it? God, I couldn't even remember. Wouldn't it be useful if there was a gadget that let you corroborate what all the witnesses actually saw? you might actually get an accurate picture in that crowdsourced Wikipedia way. And this seemed very Black Mirror. Now, we should hold on to that because that's interesting. We'll skip over a bit. Brooker said, I became fixated on doing this story in a different way because I knew there was a good idea there. Then, a writer's room session produced the notion of someone having dark memories hidden away, of something bad that they had done. Suddenly, the key went click in the door. Within about 30 minutes, all the basic ideas had been sketched out right down to the twist. I went off and pretty much broke my record for writing a script. I believe him. There we go. So that's some of the inspiration. The other bit was he had originally thought about how your mind state could twist something you see. So, and this is where we get the title. I'm sorry it's taken me a while to get to it. It's a bit convoluted. He had thought about a VR experience where you picture yourself on a holiday and one person who's healthily adjusted would just see themselves going down the Amazon and everything's all fine and lovely. But someone who's more messed up and traumatized and neurotic might see threats everywhere. So they might see down this river a big crocodile chasing them and freak out. And that's where the idea comes from, that intrusive, damaged memory expressing itself in what should be a healthy environment, as happens to Mia here and gives her away. So that is your autistic, awkward, overlong breakdown of the title, Tory Rebuttal. I hope that helped. We've had quite a few super chats come in, so I just want to thank people for them now. No Need to Know, sending in another one. Thank you so much. 10th super chat. It is very much appreciated, sir. Mima got the donos to work. Thank you very much. Pineapple pizza forever. Yes, we love it, but you got to have spice on there.
Speak for yourself.
No, it's lovely, but you got to have the spice on there as well. You got to have the chilies.
Nope. I don't eat pineapple at the best of times, so it's not going to work for me.
But it helps you synthesize protein, doesn't it? It makes protein more bioavailable.
I don't care. I don't know what that means. Just leave it alone. Don't make me eat pineapple.
Fair play. I won't take the comment any further. We'll move on. Keep it healthy. I've been told there are other benefits, but that's a random name. That's a familiar name. I've seen you.
I recognize you at this point. I see you show up in all sorts of chats these days. That's a random name.
Hello. Thank you very much for sending in 5 Canadian bucks. Harry Synth said he'd be down to have you on the Chudcast, though probably not soonish. I feel like Nick Fury, but pastier and possibly retarded. Harry.
Hey, that's really cool to know. I mean,
Nice.
I don't know how he'd get in touch with me. Just I'm on Twitter. I don't know if he's on Twitter. So if he ever feels like having me on, just get him to get in touch with me, and I will probably be available.
Nice. I like to feel I've shepherded this relationship together. You guys should talk. It was cool.
He seems like a cool guy, so I'd look forward to it.
He does. I actually watched a bit of his stuff. After
He's got some great videos. His Ferg outs are incredible.
What should I watch? Because I've only seen like little clips put together. What video should I watch of his?
Watch his God of War Ragnarok video, and then watch the absolute meltdown that EFAP had over it, and then watch his Starfield video where he responds to some of that meltdown.
I will do exactly that. Yeah, I felt he was talking a bit more off the cuff from what I saw, but it was chill and there's another excellent channel, Reaper. Just felt like someone actually responding to it, but without the constraints. We'll put it.
I've not heard of Reaper. I'll have to check that out. Any videos that you would recommend?
If you can get over the scouseness, it's excellent stuff. He did the thing that blew him up was covering True Detective season 4. But to be honest,
okay, that sounds interesting. I'll check that out.
Really good video. To be honest,
I'm a huge fan.
Good.
Right, I'm gonna say something here. Right, you've watched True Detective series 1, right? One of the best pieces of fiction
Of course.
Nick Pizzolatto and the director, what was his name? Fukushima, whatever his name was.
Kari Fukunaga. Yeah.
Fukunaga. Thank you very much. One of my favorite things ever. So recently, I've been on Twitter defending Martyr Maid and the interview that he'd had on Joe Rogan and on Tucker Carlson. And one of the posts that I did blew up. And who do I see liking it in my notifications but the actual official personal account of Nick Pizzolatto?
Ooh, whoa.
Now, I'd heard that he was based behind the scenes, but if he's liking stuff like that, I guess there's some truth to it.
Nice.
And it's not what I was expecting.
Oh, that is very tasty.
I know, right? I know.
Oh man, the fall from grace from actually no, I reported Fall from Grace. I have not watched any series of True Detective other than the first one, which I've watched about 4 times.
Yeah, that first one is infinitely rewatchable. I did watch the second series as it was coming out, but was very disappointed.
Yeah, so Reapers...
But that was another case of a rush job, because he spent 4 years writing the first series as a novel and then adapted it into a series, and then HBO go, oh, this was only supposed to be a one-off, but we want it to be an anthology now. You've got 6 months to write the next series.
Oh, brutal.
Of course it was going to be a disaster.
Brutal. They got to be patient with it. They got to be patient. What? Oh, dear. Many a case. Anyway, Reaper's video on True Detective Season 4, great entryway. And he also put out a video today about the Snow White. He's very brutal about it. I saw an excellent comment in his comments about saying that film was so bad even Stephen Hawking would have walked out. Classic. Absolute classic. And we have a comment here. Adam's Horror using the member comment. See, memberships. Excellent. Saying all this money got your girl losing her thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. I garbled that, didn't I? I completely garbled it. Thank you again. Thank you again for 10 months of support, Adam. I've got a note here that I really wanted to highlight as just something to discuss, because we've got how convoluted this chain of memories is and the problems with that. But there's one really interesting bit where the show kind of acknowledges that this stuff can actually be interesting. We see a man's memory actually change in response to a prompt on the recollection. And given that Charlie Brooker talks about a Wikipedia approach to the facts, that seemed pretty interesting given what we know about Wikipedia's reliability, how heavily influenced that is. We've got, in the show itself, someone's memory literally being changed. The musician gets Mandela. Wait, was it the gay? No, it's a gay dentist got Mandela affected. I wondered what you guys thought of that.
I didn't think of it too. I didn't think too much of it at the time, if I was perfectly honest. But I can see what they're going for there. That's possibly the one interesting idea that's really in this episode, even if it's only shown very briefly. That this kind of technology would be incredibly easy to manipulate. We already know from, I think it was following the 90s, wasn't there a mass of women claiming that they'd been raped, where it turned out that essentially therapists and psychoanalysts had been planting false memories in their heads?
Yeah, and the Satanic Panic, the daycare false memories scandal, where mothers and their children were accusing daycare workers of holding satanic rituals, and a bunch of people were prosecuted, and then it came out later that the psychiatrists had manipulated the memories, and a bunch of women whose lives were destroyed were set free, but their lives were absolutely destroyed after that.
There is speaking of Scandinavian horror, there is an absolutely horrific, hard to watch film about this with Mads Mikkelsen called The Hunt. The Hunt was the English title.
Okay, well, I do like Mads Mikkelsen, so
Yeah. Patrick Batman is throwing a little bit, yes. So, I mean, as Martin Maid has already been referenced here from his Epstein stuff, yeah, the Finder's cult, it's not like this stuff isn't happening, but tangential to this, there was a lot of sort of implanted memory in.
I mean, we already see. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, we already see through the episode that she says that, oh, this is incredibly subjective, so we've got to get you in the right mindset. So they need to play the music, they need to have the right smell so that they can access the memories properly. That process alone could do so much to distort somebody's memories if the person conducting it is just perhaps feeding them the wrong information, perhaps playing the wrong song. Because people in that situation, they're going to want to, help if it's an insurance claim and somebody's been knocked over by a car. So they're going to be very, very agreeable. So you say it's this song, most people are just going to say, yeah, actually, you're right. They'll pretend like they remember, and through that, they will end up actually remembering it that way. So there's so much that could go wrong. And even from the perspective of the insurance agent seeing those memories of her murdering the guy, I mean, for all we know, because it's so subjective and so easy to manipulate, it might just be maybe this woman's got a really messed up head.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on in those images. You don't have any context for it. Maybe she watches weird films. Maybe she has some kind of psychological problems. It doesn't have to be that, okay, she's actually murdered somebody. Because if you ask me, how would you even really be able to trust this? You put a little chip on someone's forehead and then give them a few sounds and smells, and all of a sudden clear images of their mind pops up on screen. If this existed in real life, I wouldn't believe it, if I was perfectly honest.
No, it's such a stretch. And yeah, without delving into that, why would she even agree to it in the first place? Why don't she just say she's busy, come back later? Ugh. Anyway, yeah, it would be unreliable, as you say. But I think there's a interesting scintilla of doubt. Now, maybe that is just coming from a very traditionally leftist place of how, witnesses are unreliable, therefore we can't trust the court system, therefore we can't trust the justice system. It could be that. But sorry, Murgoot, from reading Charlie Brooker's other sessions, he is interested in mobs. He is interested in how we can be directed to villainize someone in spite of the actual facts. The example he used was the Big Brother racism scandal from way back in the day, Celebrity Big Brother, and pointing out how the newspapers targeted a woman called Jade Goody. Zoomers, don't worry about it, you don't need to know. Who hadn't actually done that much, but was a more popular target than other characters who had said questionable things in the room. But the public walk away with a memory of who was the bad one. I think he's concerned about that kind of, crowd-funded consensus, Wikipedia consensus.
Yeah, the other problem I see with the memory technology is, what if you're interviewing a sociopath or a pathological narcissist or even a clinical psychopath whose memories alter to exactly what they want them to be. And that could throw everything off. Totally.
We've had some generous but questionable super chats in, so I just want to address those. But I've done that, I would like to ask you whether you think Charlie Brooker is saying this technology would be a good thing, or by extension, whether he is saying the mass surveillance state that this technology is kind of analogous to is a good thing, given that, to help us catch a murderer. But before that, that's a random name saying Carl keeps planting haram memories in my head.
Try working for him.
I don't want to fuel any imagery here that people may be having. But thank you very much. That's a random name. And you also said, oh, God, every time Carl asks me to have kids, I edge. As I assume you mean straight edge, right? You are committed to sobriety. Good on you.
That's a random name. Is a very good boy.
He is a good boy.
I
Going
can
straight
tell.
edge.
And I'm not getting into that discussion again. My notifications are still blowing up on Twitter over that.
Tory rebuttal. Jade Goody, a name I haven't heard. Yes, well.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, people. I don't know. People of a certain vintage won't know. But for anyone not a Brit bong, I thought I'd set some context. Oh dear. He did one Kerry Katona as well. How about that, Kerry Katona? That bringing your rocking your memories again? No, just me. Anyway, there'll be an Atomic Kitten appreciator watching this, I'm sure. What do you reckon, guys? What do you think Brooker's stance is on the kind of ubiquitous UK surveillance state? Then is he saying it's a good thing? Is he pro it? Even though he makes it an object of absolute dread in this episode? What do you think?
I don't think he knows whether it's good or bad, but he's heavily skeptical of it. And it shows earlier episodes, especially first and second season. He kind of straddles the line and just makes you think about what's going on, and his skepticism shows through. Me, surveillance state kind of frightens me, and I fall on the side of the less surveillance, the better, but that's just me. But I believe he's on the line.
How about yourself, Harry?
As a resident of the UK, I hate the surveillance state. I want it to go away. I'm sure everybody in the chat agrees with me there. In this episode, I think it would be incredibly out of character and not in keeping with the rest of the show for it to be pro this kind of technology, because this technology has always been presented in Black Mirror as dystopian, oppressive, a tool of the state to control people. However, the way that it's presented in the episode itself, I think while it wants to go for that kind of presentation, just does not give enough time to exploring the implications of the technology other than the few scenes that we get of it being used. There is a little bit in there that suggests that this technology would be unreliable, easy to manipulate, and also intrusive, massively intrusive. But it doesn't spend enough time on it to really explore that other than just suggesting those things. And also, it throws it has to be said again, throws it all out the window when apparently you can get a lovely objective memory from a guinea pig. Enough to be able to track down a woman within 10 minutes.
I mean,
so the show, for the sake of trying to round out the thriller side of this episode with a nice, neat ending where all the loose ends are tied up, they throw away the dystopian aspect that they were trying to present as well. Although, of course, you could say that because of this technology, it does also present the incentive for her to kill the baby in the end anyway, as a way of of getting rid of all of the witnesses. But again, it undercuts it. It undercuts it because apparently you can just get it from a guinea pig. In which case, why aren't these, can you get it from a bird?
I was literally thinking,
can you get it from a bird?
Save yourself a ton of time.
Is there a flock of birds that you could get this? If there is a cat walking across the road, can you get it from a cat?
Well, how about
what are the limits of this?
Your girl Shazia? Why not pull it, reach into a bag, pull out a whole load of breadcrumbs, summon loads of pigeons, check each one of them. If they're local pigeons, they might have caught it, got a bird's eye view. Why not go for that? Save yourself a load of legwork.
The expansion of it also being able to be used effectively,
Mm.
because I mean they get the right woman, right? So it must work. So it works effectively with animals. So yeah, it opens up so many questions. The implications of that are so expansive. And again, I think Charlie would have thought of that if he wasn't in such a rush.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Fair
my
comment.
question is, how did they make the guinea pig understand what they wanted it to show them? Do they have a rodent whisperer or something? I don't know.
Well, I mean, apparently, if the technology works like this, why wouldn't the police have a rodent whisperer on hand just for this very situation?
It definitely it's part of this super rushed finale where it's like, don't think about it, episode's done, bam.
I'm sorry. I mean, if you want it to be right, you're presenting two different stories here. You're presenting the idea of the security state, this dystopian intrusion on people's memories and people's minds, and you're presenting the thriller. How far is this woman willing to go to cover up her tracks? Outside of having it so that she decides that killing the baby is too far, and they use the baby potentially to get an image from the memory, right? But Charlie Brooker wanted to go with his super edgy, oh my God, she kills the baby. Isn't this edgy and depressing and so shocking? I bet you're so shocked by that, audience, aren't you? If he didn't go for that, the only other thing is she gets away with it. I mean, because otherwise, again, you get all of these problems of why did the police show up to the house in the first place? Why did they think that they could get a memory from a guinea pig? How were they able to immediately track her down as soon as they've got the memory from the guinea pig, which is a scene that they do not show, because I think Charlie Brooker knew that if he showed a scene of them trying to extract a memory from a guinea pig, that it would break the episode even more than it already did, that it opens up all of these problems. So I think he wanted to tie it up neatly, but this is an episode that demanded a more thoughtful ending.
Yeah, it's he says in the book Inside Black Mirror, you either go with it or you don't. And I think I think conclusively the audience has not gone with it. It's no. It doesn't carry many people, and I think probably because that dark tone, the dark comedy, isn't really there throughout the rest of the episode, unless I missed a ton. That there is really not much comedy in there. So, yeah, it's a swing and a miss, just like Metalhead immediately after. It's that last second twist that just does not work with the rest of the episode, and seems like trying a little too hard for its own good. We've had a couple more super chats. That's a random name. Thank you for another $2 Canadian, saying he is the goodest goy. I'm delighted to hear that. Jokes aside, good night, gents. Thank you. That's a random name, and thank you for your donations, and good night to you as well. And Adam Loves Horror sent another $2. If it was like the other episode, they'd use bees. Oh yeah, why not? Why not use bee memories? Thank you again, Adam. Very much appreciated. Yeah, that was a season 3 finale where they did the almost feature length. I remember with
it's
Benedict
an hour and a
Wong
half long. That's one of the ones in the first 5 series that I haven't watched, because I'd also heard really bad things about it.
Yeah, I mean that was again another one. I think Brooker remains ambivalent. That's the easiest way to describe him. He's ambivalent. You know, he wants political change, but he sees that people are easily manipulatable and the political system is captured. That's a Waldo moment. He'll have you root for someone who's being victimized and then reveal they were awful. Basically a child harmer twice. We've got this episode. We've got the Hated in the Nation, where you have basically very detestable people being targeted and killed, but then it's all turned back on you. He hedges his bets. He's ambivalent about this. I think he he's happy to show that the technology, even if you think you're doing good with it, has these deleterious effects. That's like the consistent theme. Right. Well, I don't know if you folks, yes, exactly, Dr. Prepper. I was thinking of Shut Up and Dance and White Bear, you know. I don't know if you folks had anything else on Crocodile. Otherwise, I was going to move us into just rounding up our thoughts on UK horror so far.
Sounds fine by me.
All right. Murgoot, how about yourself?
Let's go. I haven't seen Adolescence, but I've heard about it on Twitter. Good, bad, and ugly. So,
yeah, it's in. Someone did ask about this, and I'm not sure I've got too much to add about this. But reminding the purpose of this month's theme, UK horror, was looking at how, in our contemporary situation, contemporary current fears are filtered and expressed through the lens of horror. And pretty much all the literature you will read on horror talks about how it will express contemporary fears, whether directly or in a sublimated and transmuted, repressed fashion. So, you know, fears about youth revolutions and changes wrought about by liberalizing society got expressed with an intense wave of movies about spooky kids, from like kids literally being possessed, taken over by evil entities, from the late 60s all the way to the end of the 70s. Like, there was an intense spree of them, and that was clearly like a reaction to worries about how liberalizing was affecting children and breaking society down. We could go for older examples, like you see it referenced in pretty much every book, from the excellent feminist horror text, Men, Women and Chainsaws, to, was it David Church's post-horror? I'm just looking on my bookshelf now. The best book on this is E. Michael Jones's Monsters from the Id. I had to remember the name there. Talking about this phenomenon in detail. I think I've raised what are some of those fears, most of which are expressed very directly. But I think how do you... I'll put it up to the panel. How directly do you think the films have handled these issues, and how honestly have they handled them? Big question with much rambling.
Would you like to go first?
Some of them are very well directed and acted, but honesty, no. They bring up the problem, but point in the direction of the people they want to chastise rather than who's causing the real problem.
Very diplomatically put. How about yourself, Harry? Is that fair?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Murgoot. I will say the honesty, there is some honesty which is coming at looking at the bleakness of Britain today and being able to represent that accurately. Especially Harry Brown was very, very good at that. I don't know how well this episode of Black Mirror does it, because it feels so out of place and time, mainly because of the fact that it's supposed to be Scotland, apparently, but they've said it in Iceland as well. So that kind of confuses things here. But Harry Brown was very, very effective at showing the genuine bleakness of inner city life in England. Whether it was being entirely honest about the source of crime in inner city England, not to say that young white chavs didn't exist and weren't very, very criminal a lot of the time. That's not to say that, but also it avoided pointing the finger at the main culprits. Similarly with this, as you've pointed out, there is a little bit of Netflix casting going on in the way that they've presented the main character versus the people that she murders. that awful refugee film. That awful refugee film. That I don't really need to say more about that. The only one that I would say doesn't really need to have that kind of lens applied to it was Possum, because Possum was so self-contained as a narrative that it wasn't really trying to explore those kinds of broader social issues. You could say it was quite indulgent because it was so self-focused, but that's something I actually quite liked about it. But it did also present, again, the bleakness of modern Britain, because it is quite a bleak country these days.
Yeah, it's very fair. I mean, I very much agree. His House, I felt, dodged the issue completely with a sort of, you might be worried about this, but I want to, the issue of people coming across on boats, but I want to allay your fears, tell you you're wrong, and kind of make you shamed for even thinking it.
I wouldn't even say it dodged the issue. It gaslit you. It gaslit you because it shows them being terrible people, kidnapping a young girl and getting her killed, and then said, well, they managed to beat the witch doctor at the end and they felt sufficiently bad about it, so they're just as British as you and me. They can stay.
Fair play, yes. That is a more accurate summary. Yes. It's interesting that got it expressed and some things came through, but yes, ultimately, I think they very consciously steered you away and didn't actually address your fears. So this is something, I think the matter of asylum is going to rock up in horror quite a bit more, but I think if it's going to do that, it will do it because of how live an issue is. It's going to do it in a very analogous form. It's going to be symbolic, because literally you couldn't talk about it unless you talked about it in a very specific way, as His House did. With Black Mirror, I think because they were using an analogy, because they were using symbol, they could be a lot more honest about it. And I think it gets that feeling of paranoia that you can be tracked anywhere, that basically you don't have any privacy, that any rando could track you down. Technology for which basically exists. If you talk about things in the way we do, which are fairly wide-held opinions, you know that your life can be ruined if you just happen to be the one picked out of the crowd to be made an example of. Black Mirror kind of gets that, I think. I think it does deal with the issue of the Public Private Panopticon very well. Other episodes like Nosedive also did it very well. Even if the episode isn't something I particularly enjoyed, the awareness that you are dishonestly judged by very poorly motivated peers.
That was the one
Very
with the
honest,
rating app, correct?
Yes, that's the one. Yes, Bryce Dallas Howard. That's the one.
No, I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, used for comedic effect, but for me, it was just totally horrific.
Yeah, I've not watched that episode in a very, very long time, but I remember finding it funny, but also finding that her breakdown near the end of the episode, as much as it was played for laughs, if I'm remembering right, was a pretty horrible thing to happen.
Yeah, it's one of those odd things to raid for comedy. Yeah, and as I remember, she ends up in a jail cell with a very Netflixy romantic partner at the end. Classic.
I think you're correct.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but it just stuck in my head. And I've missed a couple of super chats. I apologize. Adam Loves Horror, thank you. You've been so generous tonight. I really appreciate it. You sent in $2 saying, "Oh, you're responding to that's a random name. Why edge when you can hedge?" Deeply subversive. and saying adolescence should be the bonus stream. Now, I haven't actually seen it myself, so I could not do that, but I've got some tasty topics for you.
I have had normies bring up adolescence to me. In real life, I had a dentist's appointment on Monday, and he brought up adolescence and started asking if I'd watched Adolescence because he'd been loving it. And I was sat in the chair going, I've not got round to watching it yet, but maybe. Trying to not reveal that I'm an extremist online. But the thing that was interesting was that instead of talking about the social messaging, instead of talking about any of the political aspects of it, he was simply amazed at the fact that each episode was done in the style of a one take, which I didn't know was the gimmick of the show. And it was funny to me that of the normies that I've spoken to about it, that seems to be all that they care about. It's the jangling keys. They don't actually care, or at least they may not care about the political messaging, but it's amazing how just jangling those keys in their eyes will allow them to quietly sit and passively absorb the propaganda that's being presented to them.
You're focused on that, and you're not focused on the rest of it. Yeah. Very true. Very true. In fact, so I've got to credit Simon Roberts with this. He sent an essay to me a while ago that I started reading today called "The Privatization of Stress" by which is by Mark Fisher. And there's a quote early on that I thought was absolutely amazing. Since 1989, capitalism's success in routing its opponents has led to it coming close to achieving the ultimate goal of ideology: invisibility. In the global north, at least, capitalism proposes itself as the only possible reality, and therefore it seldom appears as such at all. Attilio Boron argues that capitalism has been shifted to a discrete position behind the political scene, rendered invisible as the structural foundation of contemporary society, and cites Bertolt Brecht's observation that capitalism is a gentleman who doesn't like to be called by name. Now, obviously, from that you can discern Fisher's political interests. But
I'm already aware of Fisher.
Yeah, but I think he's so on the money. Like, the best ideology is one that you don't think of as an ideology when you're not paying attention to it, where you are not aware that you are being propagandized. That's when it's best. So yeah, if you're entirely focused on, hey, it's Stephen Graham, I like Stephen Graham, or hey, this is a one shot, this is amazing, or these are some funny jokes, you don't take it in, and that's when your sort of psychological defenses are down and the propaganda works even more.
No, that's absolutely right. And that style, that brand of Marxist analysis of ideology, particularly in the kind of Althusser, what's his name? Althusser?
Althusser, yeah. Louis
Althusser. The Althusserian analysis of ideology, I think, is pretty on the money, and there's not much to complain about with it.
No, working more correct than the mainstream, man. Many such cases. Yeah. As that relates to adolescence, it's the way the message is imbibed in. I was thinking of how timely it was because obviously knife crime violence is one of the big threats at the moment, really hard to ignore. But knowing that, they've decided that you need to do something. You kind of need a cultural pressure valve to go off to redirect that energy. And as I was saying backstage, as with so many other things, this is a tragedy that can be put to good use, and can be used to redirect the energy, which is via adolescence onto a far more acceptable target. Ugh. Terrible stuff. Terrible stuff. We have some well-read chat here. Some appreciation of Fisher, but obviously, criticism. Yeah, Rancière is apparently Rontier is a good critic of Althusser. I'll take your word for it, Miami Virtue. And Guy Debord's Society of Spectacle is interesting as well. Thank you for the recommendation, Dr. Prepper. I haven't read them.
We'll have to check out all of those writers when I get round to it 40 books later.
Yeah. So I think, in short, it's probably the same take you've heard from pretty much everyone else. But yeah, adolescence is the, knife crime. Got to shut down that Andrew Tate.
I can't believe young white incels would do this.
Mm.
You know what? You know what? I can't believe it either, adolescence. You're right.
Yeah. I've been trying to... Someone may have done this already, but I am trying to think of a kind of categorization for propaganda where you have... I already think that you have like maintenance propaganda, which is propaganda just to keep your ideology in place, right? It's not trying to change your mind. It's just trying to keep you on the current ideology. Then you've got sort of exaggeration propaganda, where it's just a little bit heightened, right? This is a mainstay of any Hollywood film, like the idea of the average man could army up and take down a load of mercenaries. It's kind of harmless. It's an exaggeration of reality. But I see increasingly a type of propaganda that is an inversion of reality, like a direct inversion, so that you kind of think, hang on, what? You feel a little crazy for seeing it, like with adolescence. God, I don't know if I want to give this example, but I had an advert on YouTube for Loop earplugs. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I've not seen that one.
All right. Well, it's advertising these really efficient earplugs by Loop. Buy them now. In case your commute is really noisy, if you're troubled by a really noisy commute. And was
it a young Englishman being loud and noisy on the public commute, was it?
It is a female scholar.
Oh, okay.
And I just thought, a female scholar is the person bothered by noise on public transport.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's one of those moments of, I don't think I took my crazy pills this morning, but I've had me this.
He's not in the chat anymore, but I've had Samson tell me about his morning commute, and it's not the female scholars complaining about the noise on his commute. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm remembering certain Transport for London adverts.
Yeah, I think the best way of putting it is a term that's already out there, which is it's gaslighting.
Yeah,
it's a form of propaganda that's simply gaslighting you. Because this is very plain, everyday, obvious stuff that you will encounter on day to day. But sadly, enough people in the mass are sheepish and will disbelieve their own eyes if an authority figure or something that they put authority onto, like the media, tells them that what they're seeing is actually the opposite. Which is a simple form of gaslighting. It's as simple as that.
That could work.
It's anymore. It's bordering on pure, almost wartime propaganda. Seeing that, I've been seeing ads on YouTube. One of them hit me as it was unskippable, and it was a minute long, and it's save the poor people of Gaza. They've been besieged by Israel, and YouTube's running that one a lot.
I'm getting loads of those, which I'm just going to say the ad targeting is maybe a little bit off, guys, if you're sending me those.
But even the movies and the shows are almost they're getting desperate in some of the stuff coming out. I mean, I haven't seen Adolescence. I don't know how far it's gone. I've just read comments on it. But there are other shows that people around me have talked about that are just basically allegories for Trump and assassinating him, and allegories for certain unaligned European leaders being, well, the reincarnation of Mustache Man and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, we're basically at war with ourselves. But,
Well, I remember a certain I don't remember the name of it. What was that giant natural gas supply that was nuked?
Nord Stream.
Nord Stream,
Nord
yes.
Stream 2. That got nuked. I just had some conversations with people who were like, literally said, "Oh, Russia did it." I'm like, really? But man, as you say, the gaslighting is strong, very strong. Adam Mazhar sent in. No need to apologise, Adam. Two dollars saying, didn't mean to distract from the topic. I enjoyed it. No worries. It did. It fed into what we're talking about. There is a certain amount in this of just a little bit of direction away from reality, but obviously, his house was a lot more adolescence-like in how it reframes and redirects and frankly gaslights you. So we had a good example to talk about it. And the reason we want to talk about it is because a lot of this stuff is so contemporary that studios aren't going to want to talk about it honestly if they talk about it directly. And I think where horror is more interesting is when it expresses very true things very indirectly, often so indirectly that you don't realize until a fair bit later. That is always the strength of it. But folks, I think we've done a nice size stream on this. Got quite meatily into it, I think. Not our favorite episode of Black Mirror, probably, but it's probably a good time to do closing thoughts and score for Black Mirror's Crocodile. Slightly after a tangent now. Murgoot, would you like to lead with closing thoughts and scores for this?
Certainly. It started out interesting and beautifully done. Then the girl bossiness came in, which I noticed but ignored, and then the ending was just a heinous mess and destroyed the entire rest of the show. I give it 4 burgers made of guinea pig meat and a whole lot of cheese, just because the ending coming back, and it made the entire rest of the episode laughable.
Well, I mean, genius. The song lyrics in the play, they referred to the events of the show. Dun, dun, dun. Four guinea pig burgers, yeah. I'm not going to fight you on that, Murgoot. I'm not going to fight you on it. How about you, Harry? We topping 4?
I'm saying 3. 3 very bland, dull, depressing burgers out of 12 that I will not be searching through my memories for any time in the future.
Absolutely fair. 3, yes. How much would you have raised it by if it were trimmed down to the old school 40 minutes? So 20 minutes taken off it.
I mean, that would require an entire rewrite. I would need to see what of the 20 minutes that they have taken out and if they've reshuffled anything else to do with the narrative, because I already thought one of the worst parts of it was the lack of any kind of deep characterization of these people that I'm supposed to care about. And so I don't see how lopping off 20 minutes would necessarily help. It might just be that the time that has been allotted to this episode just needs to be better spent.
You'd lose a gay dentist, probably.
Oh, yeah. But again, that time could be better spent.
True. Okay. Fair play. Fair play. Right. As for me, I'm going for a 4. It's a 4 for me, and that's largely because I think you've got good actors and a good director doing solid work with what they were given. It looks gorgeous. There's interesting use of the architecture to tell you a little bit about the psychological backstory. Andrea Riseborough does some good performances. Shazia as well acted. Like, she gets nasty when she's freaking out about to be killed. It's a good job. It's a good performance. The only problem is it takes itself very seriously when it is being ridiculous. We do have some, unbelievable casting, and you can see exactly where it's going once the trail is established, meaning you are just sort of waiting for it to move along, only to get a bit of a rug pull with an absolutely ridiculous ending that, thinks it's a lot smarter than it is. It's extremely jarring, and should have been. When Brooker says this was the fastest he ever wrote, I believe him. I believe him. Potent ideas and, as I said, good performances and good directing save it. But this story needed a couple of passes to flesh it out. So a 4, which feels a bit generous. I'll actually confess, I watched this at 1.4 speed, and I was really just trying to, and it still felt a bit laboured of me. Yeah. Oh, Dom! I've not seen you in an age. Good on you. Good to see you back in live chat, man. The guinea pig, GeForce tells you all about it, man. What if the guinea pig frames someone else? Who knows? Anyway, that is our review of Black Mirror's Crocodile. It is our end of the UK horror arc. So thank you for joining us, and if you've missed any of them, Harry's been with us the whole time, so we've got kind of a consistent guest take on everything. So go back and watch those. For the month ahead, we are completing something we started in February. So for April, we are going to be looking at modern folk horror. All of February, we did classic stuff from the 70s, I think early 80s. We did mid-60s to, I think the latest we went was the early 80s. I could be wrong. And we wanted to really lay out what that really British, really English, actually, no, I'll say British folk horror is, how tied it is to our culture, our society, our history. And now I'm really interested in April to look at modern folk horror. How has that worked in modern times? So we've got a couple of big hitters, haven't entirely locked it down. But we're going to kick off the modern folk horror arc with a film called Starveacre. That's Starveacre, which I believe is from 2015 with Matt Smith. So, if you are not a fan of him from his house, hopefully he does a better job in Starveacre. So that is going to be the one we start with. There's a little bit of debate over what goes in. Some of it is going to be bonus streams because there are some great candidates. Starveacre is what we'll kick off with, and I will clarify the arc as soon as possible. So maybe if there's something you really, really want to see, mention it in the comments. So yeah, you've had your review of Black Mirror's Crocodile, and you've got your horror homework for next week, which I repeat is Starveacre. So there we go. I'll set up the stream ASAP. Massive thank you to Harry and Murgoot.
Thank you for having me on again. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for the chat, for being very active and very informative on things.
Yeah, you've all been very engaging.
Yeah, you are, again, chat. It is embarrassing to have a chat this smart. Some great references in there, and it's been very active, so thank you. And also, you've been very generous, very much appreciated. Miami Virtue, Ben Wheatley. One of the films I want to do is A Field in England. I don't know what the order is, but
Get
I'm
me
really
on for
excited
that.
about it.
I'm still undecided if it's gibberish or a masterpiece.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited. But yeah, if people haven't, I'd say his kill list, which we've already covered with Harry, actually, is a masterpiece of modern
Yeah, that's a
folk
great
horror.
film.
Yeah, oh, so much going on there. But so I'm keen to look at his Field in England. So we're probably going to get that in. So yes, Harry, you are of course welcome for that if you want to nab that.
I absolutely will.
Sweet. All right, folks, it's been a really fun stream. We've done 2 hours, so we're very efficient here. I hope you've got yourselves a lovely Friday tomorrow and a lovely weekend after that. I will sign off. Thank you all again. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
Hashtag Shulgan.